Hey, it is SirWillow. Gonna do my confessions episode a little different this week since I am on the road, and we're gonna be doing questions and answers that you all have sent in. So, yeah, no editing this time. Sorry. I ended up with a very sudden, unexpected trip out of town for several days, but I didn't want to leave y'all hanging without an episode. So, I'm actually down here at the Branson Landing. This is Lake Taneycomo. I know it looks like a river because really that's what it is. But wanted to go through a few questions that people have sent in that have been kind of piling up a little bit and figured I'd hit them. So I've got 6 questions that viewers have sent in, and I'm going to cover them all unedited, and we'll see what happens here. And hopefully I don't squint too much because of the sun in my eyes. So the first one, how do you handle guests who don't meet safety requirements? Now, I got to deal with this particularly when I was working at Rhino Rally, but I also did a little bit at the train because we did have some different safety requirements there. For example, kids had to be a certain age and height to be able to ride without an adult. They had to sit in the middle as opposed to on the outsides if their legs didn't touch. And then if they had certain disabilities, it would also affect how we would seat them. And then Rhino Rally had a definite height requirement. Everybody had to have their own seat, could not sit on any laps, couldn't move around or anything like that. And so we did have those kinds of requirements to deal with. So the answer, how do you deal with people who don't meet the requirements? Very carefully and very nicely. It's hard when you've got people that have been excited and waiting for a ride only to find out that they don't get to ride. You don't let people on who don't meet the requirements. You just can't risk safety. Safety has to come first. And unfortunately, not everybody takes that very well. You do have some people that kind of try to get around them by trying to prop their kids' hair up or stuff things in their shoes and stuff like that. And don't do that. It puts the employee in a very awkward position because if we know we're not supposed to let them ride anyways, I've had parents say, I'll sign a waiver for their safety. No, we're not going to let you sign a waiver. I'm sorry if the employee values your child's health and safety more than you do, but we're not going to let you do that. You basically have to say, look, I'm sorry. I understand they want to ride. However, these guidelines are here for their safety, to keep them safe, to make sure they don't get hurt and that nothing happens. So we can't let them ride. And you just have to hold that line. Every now and then somebody gets upset enough, you can't bend the rule, sorry. And every now and then you got to call management to come out and explain the same thing you just explained to them, that no, there's not going to be an exception. You're not going to change the rule for them, that this is what it is and it's there to keep them safe, and sorry, tough. So, you don't compensate them because rides all have the safety requirements outside. So if they still insist on waiting in line, well, you know what? I had a few times with Rhino Rally that we would have families that would try to sneak their kids in line or just ignore the employee that was up front, and they get all the way through the line up to the front. And as the driver on Rhino Rally or the operator on a ride, you always have that call, hey, if I'm not sure, even if I know they got screened, I want to double check it because I want to be safe because it's my watch and I don't want anybody hurt. That would be my fault. And so we would occasionally call them out again and say, hey, can we measure that one again? I want to see it. I want to know that they're safe. And yeah, every now and then we would catch somebody who had managed to get by that shouldn't have. And, then you'd apologize again. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. I can't let them ride. It's just not safe for them and it's not safe for you. So it would stink. You'd get some people upset. Most people understood, but you'd have enough that would, get mad. Well, why can't they? Well, because it's for their safety. So, number 2, what kind of perks did you get? Now, I actually have done a couple videos on the perks. They do vary from park to park. Every chain, every company has their own different thing they do. Every theme park company I'm aware of allows free admission for the employee to come in whenever they want on a day off. Sometimes I know Disney has actually started restricting their employees on certain holidays because the parks are just ridiculously crowded. All of the parks too give some version of free tickets that they can use for family or friends. Silver Dollar City actually gave annual passes to all your immediate family members. Busch Gardens, we would get so many tickets every 3 months or so. We would get a new batch of tickets. Disney would give us a few, just a very few handful of tickets to use throughout the year. But they also gave us a main gate that, depending upon your position, you could use 6 times, 12 times, or more per year if you're up in management. And those would include free admissions for the number of immediate family members you had. So for me, my main gate allowed me to get in me and 3 guests at any point, and I could use that up to 12 times a year. And so you had the free admissions that way, which, yes, family and friends and strangers and long-lost cousins say, hey, can you get me in? No, don't do that. It's actually what I call the most loved and the most hated perk. There's also discounts, of course, in the park, whether on food or merchandise, almost always merchandise. Food, it would depend upon the place and the time of year. Disney didn't give a whole lot of food discounts to their cast members. You would also occasionally have special events that were just for cast members, extras, other discounts that you might get, and some things like that. Disney in particular had what they called the Cast Connection, where they would actually take discounted merchandise, closeout merchandise, and actually things taken from the resorts and parks and hotels they weren't using anymore, and they would sell that. And you could get that at a great discount. And depending upon what part and what they were selling, you actually could take in friends to that as well. So that was really cool. So that's kind of the main benefits. A lot of them, you could also get perks around town. Silver Dollar City, you could actually get discounts or free admission to most of the shows in town, and several of the other attractions as well. Disney, you just got in the habit wherever you went. Do you give Disney cast member discounts? And oftentimes you get 10-15% off a meal or something like that. So a lot of other little things like that. But it was fun. But yeah, check out those other videos. It goes into a little bit more detail on those. Let's see here. Number 3, the source of the Disney point. That would be this thing. Hey, it's over there. It's that way. Where does that come from? There's actually a long-standing rumor that people started doing the Disney point because Walt smoked, and so he would point while holding a cigarette. I can tell you that is completely false, and in fact, it's actually addressed in this little book here by Dave Smith, who is the official Disney archivist. Walt did smoke. In fact, smoking is what eventually killed him. He died from lung cancer. However, Walt did not smoke in Disneyland. Ever. Never. Didn't do it. And that's because he didn't want kids to see him smoking. He didn't want people in general to know that he smoked. His employees did, but he wouldn't smoke in the parks. He didn't want people picking up the bad habit, and so he wouldn't do it. So no, it is not from Walt smoking. That's a myth. Sorry. It is simply because in many places, pointing with one finger, especially at a person, is rude. And so they began doing that either with the 2 fingers or the whole hand. It's over there. And that's how they would give directions, so that way you weren't making a rude gesture to somebody. In the States, yes, it tends to stand out because Disney's one of the few who do it. And so you can usually tell somebody's pointing with 2 fingers. Oh, you worked for Disney, didn't you? However, if you go to other places in the world, that's actually not as unusual as you might think. So that's where it comes from. It is definitely just because of manners and just to avoid being rude. So, number 4, and this is a myth question I get every now and then. Is Walt Disney frozen and buried under the castle at Walt Disney World? No, and oh, by the way, no. There's various versions of this thing where Walt is frozen and under Cinderella Castle, or he's frozen under Sleeping Beauty Castle, or it's just his head. No, Walt was not frozen. Walt had a very slight passing interest in cryogenics, but nothing serious. There was nothing in his will to do it. Keep in mind, Disney World did not exist when Walt died. They had just started land purchasing, so they hadn't even done real work there yet. So, no, Walt is not there. In fact, Walt is actually buried at Forest Lawn in California, and you can actually go to that cemetery, and you can actually visit Walt's grave. That is where he is. Sorry, no special thing, no resurrecting Walt in the future, not gonna happen. So, number 5 is, how many bricks are there in Cinderella Castle at Walt Disney World? This is actually a fascinating story because there actually is a legal question behind it. And we were told about this when we were taking our tour of the parks and learning about different things. Because people look at the castle and they see, oh wow, it's stone and beautiful. How many bricks do they bring in? None. Not a one. And The only reason it actually became public knowledge is because many years back, there was a lady who had been at Disney World, had been at Magic Kingdom, and she claimed that one of the bricks had fallen out of the castle, had hit her in the head, and had injured her. And so she sued Disney. And in doing this, Disney basically told her, you want to drop your suit, you're not going to win, don't do this. Well, she insists on trying anyways and pushing forward, and so Disney pulled out the blueprints. There aren't any bricks. It is actually all fiberglass, plaster, and worked concrete that's all over a steel frame. So no bricks at all. Needless to say, the lady felt really stupid, lost her lawsuit, and that was the end of that. But nope, no bricks either in that or in Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. They don't use bricks. They learn to redo concrete and fiberglass so it looks like stone and brick when it's not. Pretty cool, huh? And then the last question I got is, let's see here. Can you get promoted at the parks from a non-skilled entry position up into management? And the simple answer to that is yes, absolutely. You'd be surprised how many of Disney's upper management have actually started off in the parks as ride operators, as custodians, as cooks, as various other things. In fact, I think it's something like half of the upper management, the park vice presidents and division leaders and stuff, have all started off in the parks themselves. It's actually pretty cool. In fact, there is this little guy that helped start off this big company called Pixar that actually started off as a Jungle Cruise skipper. Tony Baxter, who's one of the lead Imagineers, started off in the parks as just a regular old cast member on the rides. So a lot of the cast members, a lot of the management have all started off as cast members. And this is true at a lot of different theme parks. I know a couple of the Six Flags park managers started off as employees. I know the guy at Great Escape who's one of the main managers there now. In fact, I think he's actually the overall park manager. He started off as just a roller coaster ride operator. So yes, they really can move up. It is actually one of the few companies that if you start off entry level, you can work your way up into management. Now, it is hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of diligence. And you are going to want to study some other things on the side to be able to help better prepare you. But it can be done. It doesn't mean everybody does. A lot of people don't. But it can be done. And in fact, I actually know one of the guys I worked with as a photographer is now actually he's not park upper management, but in his division, he's one of the upper dogs. And he's still working at Magic Kingdom, but in a upper management position there. So yes, it absolutely can happen. It's a great place to be able to do that. So that is 6 viewer questions. I hope you found those interesting. I hope you like the view behind me of Lake Taneycomo. If you got more questions and stuff, please don't hesitate to send them in. I would love to hear them. I do also want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. I want to give a welcome back to Jack Decker for signing on again. Welcome back, Jack, as well as to Onyx Raven. Thank you so much for signing on to Patreon and supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you want to know more about Patreon, be sure to check the description below. Also, be looking out for memberships coming soon. This will be your way to be able to sign on. If you don't want to go through Patreon, it'll be a way to financially support me. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed these questions and answers. Hey, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so very much for watching, and God bless.